Okay, start Chedana.
Start, sir.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Welcome to Dr. Ganga Mehato, Sir, Assistant Professor English, Regional Institute of Education, NCERT, Bhopal, and Dr. Sudha Madam, Professor SART, Andhra Pradesh, Ramesh sir and Ravi sir. Please thank you and welcome to our session. Today our session is acquisition of CBSE mode of to the Andhra Pradesh government English teachers. Andhra Pradesh government has been changed syllabus as well as CBSE mode. Now we are going to change the entire process into the CBSE mode. But the problem is that it will take time for the teachers, students, as well as stakeholders and institutions also. So we should acquire from CBSE such as syllabus, language, grading system, examination pattern, teaching learning process and teaching learning methods, etc. Our AP government has decided to implement the CBSE mode of 8th class from this academic year. System will be gradually increased for year-wise from class 8th to 10th. By this year 2024, they will appear 10th class exams on CBSE mode. So these new textbooks have been adapted from NCERT and are customized according to the nativity of our Andhra Pradesh state. So this is our Honorable CM vision reflect here. Please go through the chapter-wise analysis today. So in this session, we have to discuss on LOCs as far as NCERT aims and objectives of textbooks and mentioned as 21st century skills also. So I think this is very useful to our AP English teachers. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Madam Sudha, madam, you will start the introduction of our professor, madam.
Sudha Lakshmi, madam, please start introduction of sir. Please start.
Hello. Sir, can you hear me? Can you hear my voice? Sir, am I audible?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Audible. You can carry on, madam.
Sudha madam, you are on mute. Sudha Lakshmi madam, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. This is Sudha Lakshmi from NCERT. A very warm welcome to the online class on 8th class NCERT English textbook. So I welcome all our teacher fraternity to join the class and make this opportunity to learn and clear your doubts. Now, I welcome our honorable guest, Dr. Ganga Mehato from NCERT, working as Assistant Professor RIE Bhopal. So his educational qualifications, continuous professional development, and faculty development are so inspiring. So I requested Ramesh sir to display them. This is very inspiring and motivational to our teachers. So his accomplishments are very inspiring. So he did his MA English, B.Ed, and PhD in English and started his career as a PGT in Kendriya Vidyalaya and later joined as assistant professor in JP University and moved to NCERT RIE Bhopal in 2019. Sir, we are fortunate enough to have you as our subject expert. So your qualifications and your journey is so inspiring to each and every English teacher. And sir, as you know, government of Andhra Pradesh is interested to shift to CBSE. So all our English teachers are very curious to listen from you about English teaching, how to teach English and how to prepare these children, these 8th class CBSE children, 8th class students to appear for 10th CBSE board exams in 2025. So we have to plan these 3 years to how to take them to face the examinations and get good scores ultimately. And how to improve the communication skills, first of all. As we are shifting to English medium, but most of our teachers are from Telugu mother tongue background. So it is a task for all our teachers to make them appear for the CBSE examinations. So hence I request you to give them a clear guidance and confidence to start this English teaching, CBSE English textbook teaching. So I'm happy to introduce you, sir, and we are fortunate to have you as our guest. Yeah, please, you can start your session, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shraddha Lakshmi ma'am, and thank you, Giri sir, and the host at SCRT Andhra Pradesh. It's
Ramesh,
really,
sir.
it's really my fortune to connect to some of the teachers, including some of my friends also in Andhra Pradesh. As you can see in my CV, you have given a good display of my CV, and it's not required. But yeah, in that one word was effluence, and I was there in Andhra Pradesh for about 10 months.
Okay.
2009, 8 and 9, where I was a student of B8 in EFL University. That university had trained me into teaching English. After that, I joined KV. But some of my friends are there from Andhra Pradesh who are the teachers in Andhra Pradesh government schools. Chinna Rao, who texted me with the pamphlet that's we are happy to see you. Many other friends are there who are there in Andhra Pradesh teaching in various capacities in schools. So I'm happy to connect to some of my old friends and some of the teachers who I could not meet, and now I'm introduced to them and will be in touch. So there's a journey we're starting. You have adopted the textbook of NCERT, so I'm the one who will be there throughout the time. Whenever you require any support, I think my number has also been circulated once. So you have also have my number, and my email address, of course, is there in the pamphlet itself.
Yeah.
So you can always be in touch with me with any query, any question that you have, and we'll be more than happy to be there of some help to any teacher or any pedagogy. Together, let us make it happen for Andhra Pradesh.
Sure, sir. We are waiting for that, and you will have lots of questions in your mail, and it takes days for you to clarify because we are in a lot of confusion now how to handle this textbook, how to make our students capable of doing facing the examinations and all. Yeah, please, sir.
Right, ma'am.
Can
One
we?
request. Yeah,
Yeah.
one request. Because I'm connected to the users through YouTube, so I think Shudha ma'am and the team will be looking at some of the questions. And when the question is relevant, it should not be just one way. So if the question is to the point, relevant for that particular area, then also you can interfere so that the monotony can be broken. If I can continue
Sure.
speaking for 1.5 hours, it will be again monotonous. So if
Sure.
you
Sure.
interfere with some questions that they have, relevant that to that area, to the point to, which I'm discussing, so I'll be happy to have those questions and then and there clarify doubts, because at
Sure.
that if I start clarifying, people might not be immediately connect to the context where I'm referring to. So if possible, you can also interfere me at regular intervals, not all the time, but regular intervals, maybe after 10-15 minutes, with some one or two list of questions which I can address then and there. So that
Sure,
is
sure,
one
sir.
request I would
And
like.
yeah, and one more, just a minute. I sincerely request all the teachers to post only subject-related questions, which can help to clear many doubts. Please don't post good morning, nice, like that. Don't post unnecessary chats. Yeah, because valuable questions may skip off from our, it will be scrolling very fast. So I sincerely request all our teachers to use this opportunity to type your questions related to teaching, teaching English. So that will be more useful, and we can use this opportunity very meaningfully. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, thank
please
you.
start your
That also,
session.
ma'am, when I request them to have a notebook, if you have a notebook and a pen, you can also write the questions and then type it. That will make it easy, and
Sure.
also write your names so that Sudha ma'am and the team can also refer your name. You know, being an active reader always means that you are giving some good academic content and asking real queries, not the general good morning, good afternoon. So it's good that you keep a pen and a pencil and write something, and then with your name pose the query so that we can pick it there and we can address those queries. So with that, should I start, Shudha ma'am?
Yeah, please, sir.
All
You
right.
can start
I
now.
think we should first try to understand. I think you have been trained. There are two different bodies we are referring to. One is NCERT, National Council for Education Research and Training, and the other is CBSE. So there is difference. NCERT provides the curriculum, the textbook, but CBSE implements that in the school. So it's not that all the textbook or curriculum that we have given will be there in the examination. The examination pattern may be and will be different, slightly different than only NCERT textbook. NCERT textbooks are a part of the syllabus which CBSE implements in the schools. So in the syllabus, if you go through, there are many areas. Of course, we teach them through our textbooks, but which are beyond the textbook also. But through these textbooks, those areas like writing, reading skills, grammar, those things are also built as activities in our textbook. So even though the syllabus of CBSE has some differences, but those activities, those assessments, those syllabus are covered in the NCERT textbooks. Moving further to the first slide, why NCERT textbooks? Why should we take NCERT textbook? Andhra Pradesh had already a good textbook. I had seen that textbook. I had read that textbook. So why NCERT textbook? I appreciate the textbook that Andhra Pradesh already had, but there are many things that we should look at. First thing is that when it goes to CBSE, CBSE has uniformity across the country of using NCERT textbook. So movement to a different one board to different board needs a change. At the same time, when we try to think of uniformity, there is something called unity in diversity. The whole country can have a similar pattern of reading and assessment. That's why this NCERT textbook is something that can also bring unity in the diversity of any kind that we have. We have diversity on the basis of genders, cultures, religion, linguistic diversity, and many other. NCERT textbook try to address these diversity and bring a sort of uniformity across the country. So this is required. Then also we have standard content. We have kept in mind all kind of learners, mostly the mediocre learners of the students that you're teaching in the schools. So it has standard content which can fit not only to urban areas but also students of rural areas, schools of rural areas. So it has standard content to suit to the needs of all parts of the country. Also, you have flexibility. There is flexibility given to state boards, uh, and kind of teachers also, to some sort of flexibility we have given to adopt these things to the local needs. But when it comes to CBSE, that flexibility is slightly curtailed because the questions will be asked from the textbook that of NCERT textbook that you have to follow. But again, teachers' autonomy will always be there. Teachers' freedom will also always be there. Teachers' flexibility will always be there to take on the spot decision to suit to the local needs of the classroom or the area where the teacher is engaging the students. Now let's think of the content load. NCERT textbooks have some chapters, some content. There are 2 textbooks. We have to also see that how much we can cover in the year, because as you go higher to from class 8 to class 9 to class 10, content load slightly increases. Of course, children's ability also increases to understand that kind of content. But we try to not have a lot of content. You see, the textbooks are very thin, 8 chapters, 10 chapters maximum, or 8 chapters of prose plus 8 small poetry. So the content load is not much. It suits to give necessary freedom to the teachers to teach other things beyond the content that is given in the syllabus also. Then the difficulty level of the text is also mediocre. Many of you have been told that they consider the NCERT's textbooks are more challenging, more difficult than Andhra Pradesh textbooks. I try to not agree with that. Of course, there may be some simplification of the word level or chapter level, but when it comes to really trying to see how the textbooks are written and how the words have been explained and all, the difficulty level of the text, as I said earlier, is there to suit to the local needs of the learners as well. So even in remote areas of Andhra Pradesh where you are teaching a class using NCERT textbook, I think with some inputs from your side, the text will not be difficult for you to adopt. The only thing is that you need to be aware of the text and try to find suitable strategies to transact that text. Then also we have some cultural content and references. We try to make it as Indic as possible, as Indian as possible. So we have, some of the Indic context. At the same time, we also want to make them aware of the cross-cultural references. The first lesson that you have in your textbook, Honeydew, is of Christmas. In India, we do celebrate Christmas. Christmas is not a festival just of England. It's of Indian, and we need to make our children aware, most of the children aware of the cultures across the globe are also part of India. India has lots of this community. So Christmas, that's why the story is there. So we want to make them cross-culturally adaptable also, accept all cultures, accept all religions, celebrate it together. So that's why we have cultural at the same time cross-cultural differences. Also, for class 8, it's about 13 years of age that we generally have. So the content is also very age appropriate. The kind of activities that they do, the kind of games that they play, the kind of information they are exposed to, the kind of knowledge they already have. We have prepared our textbook, on the basis of that kind of idea in mind, that it should not go beyond their age limit. So it's age appropriate. At the same time, in NCERT textbook, we also try to avoid any controversial statements that can create diversity on the basis of gender, sex, caste, religion, geographical, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and no geographical boundary. We are all one, United India. So geographical boundary and other diversity. So we have avoid all kind of things that can create any problem or that can hurt the sentiments of any particular person. So we don't have a we recheck, and even after small complaint we revise. Even if there is a small complaint about this content is not suitable, we try to revise the textbook and remove that content. So we keep on updating our textbooks on the basis of feedbacks also. That means that if you consider or if you think that there is any content which is not culturally or on any way create controversy, you can also write to us and we'll try to remove those controversy or correct that so that appropriate content reaches to the learners. Now, coming back to NEP's one particular quote, let's try to move to us further. One quote that NEP has, which can sum up the whole of NEP, is that children should not only learn, but more importantly, learn how to learn. We should not just teach them, with the content. We should teach them in a way that they can learn, they can be self-dependent on learning. They should learn how to learn. So there is something called, if you just feed them with the ready-made food, if you just prepare some food for them, say a dosa, if you prepare or idli, you just give it to them, they'll just eat. But if you and they'll be dependent on you to prepare food for them. But if you tell them how idli is made or how dosa is made, if you tell them once or twice or thrice and train them to do that, they will learn to do it, they will learn to cook it, and whenever they're hungry, they can prepare the dish and they can eat it. So let us not make our children dependent on us for knowledge, for learning. Let us make them as much self-dependent as possible. So let us train them to learn, because they're exposed to much more content beyond classroom and the textbook than what we teach them in the classroom. They have a smartphone, a tiny device in the hand, which many of them use, and there they're exposed to a lot of other content. So if we train them to use suitable content, learn better from there, certainly the tiny device can be used properly, and then they will learn how to learn and they'll be less dependent on you for knowledge. Apart from here, that means that you need to continuously grow. As Shudha ma'am was saying, that in last 3-4 years, I had attended not less than 5 or 6 continuous professional development programs of 10-15 days. And NEP also recommends that you should continuously grow yourself, continuously learn and develop yourself. So this continuous professional development is something that you should always do. Ensure that in a year you should not have minimum about 15 days, not less than 15 days of training related to teaching. So if you learn from various sources, and now COVID has made things easier. I'm connected to you from sitting from Hyderabad, sitting from Bhopal. You are addressing people at Hyderabad and other parts of the Andhra Pradesh. So you have to continuously connect, whether virtually or whether physical face-to-face mode. You can do lots of continuous professional development programs and develop yourself, because that's very much required. Every day new information is added, and unless you are updated, you will be left behind the teachers who are updating themselves every day. So in CPT, not only you learn what to teach, which is just the content, or the topic, the subjects, but also pedagogy as to how to teach them. We'll discuss all these things: what to teach, how to teach, and also what technology is required in the 21st century. So three things: what to teach, how to teach, and how to teach in the current time using technological devices in 21st century. Sir was mentioning 21st century, Giri sir was mentioning 21st century skills. So let us learn some of the skills of 21st century. I'll start from the last point, technology, then I'll go to content, and then we'll move to pedagogy. So in 21st century, NEP 12 times it is used, you have a lot of requirements, which is different. I just said the smartphone is one of the requirements, and training our learners to use it properly should be one of our important skills. So we have 21st century different requirements. Exposure to the text is more, uh, content consumption is more, uh, so the requirement is different, and learners have capabilities also different. They can handle it. Many of them have access to these kind of content. So you skill them, you train them in a way so that they can handle 21st century skills. They can use 21st century skills properly and learn better. For that, you have a lot of things. You have online and digital education, which makes learning much fun based, because lots of interactive content is there. Lots of games are there related to learning, so you can expose them to fun using videos or games. You have backup mechanism where they can store the content that more structured, and you have two-way video conferencing the way I am doing here today. So these are some of the tools that they can use to connect to any person across the globe and learn in this 21st century. You have certain platforms. I've just summed up them here. We have Diksha platform. Diksha, all of you know it. Andhra Pradesh is also a very active member of Diksha platform. So you always keep on visiting Diksha platform, enroll yourself into many courses, thousands of courses available there. Enroll into one or two courses online, and you can learn something. Then you have a SWAM platform, where you have some study materials available for teachers and students. So this SWAM is termed as Study Web of Active Learners for Young and Aspiring Minds. On SWAM, NCERT is the national coordinator of developing content for classes, or launching courses for learners of classes 9 to 12. So your course, you are in class 8 now. Next year, when your learner are going to class 9, there will be some courses available for your learners online. So apart from your teaching in the classroom, you can also expose them to, or you can also request them to enroll in one of the courses on SWAM, maybe class 9 course of English in SWAM, and learn from there, because you have standard pedagogical content available there, self-learning content available there. You can also enroll yourself in class 9, 10, 11, 12 courses and learn content from there. So this, you can go to www.swam.gov.in, and there you can look for NCERT's logo, the one that was there in the screen. And if you go inside NCERT, a list of courses offered on SWAM are available. You can check what course suits you, and accordingly you can enroll yourself, or you can enroll your learners. They're all free courses. Then MOOCs are there, many massive open online courses are there. You can also see the host of courses offered by many institutions, like including NIOS, which also works in the field of school education. So you can enroll for any massive open online course. Then we have Swamprabha. We have free DTH educational channels. There you can also enroll. This Swamprabha mostly telecasts, content, video content for higher education. Then eVidya channel is there, which is one class, one channel for school students. And in that eVidya channel, you have classes 1 to 12, 12 channels. And if your learners are on in class 8, I strongly recommend that whenever they watch TV, or this is a free DTH service. So most of them have access to the content. If they are watching TV using DTH, they have access to one class, one television. So ask them that every day, and you should do this in consultation with parents. The teachers can have a small meeting of parents, and then you say that for class 8, NCERT always, or NCERT is always NCERT's content. NCERT telecast content throughout the day. So you picks up a time when you see that English content is transacted, and say that the learner, I request you say that I request you to allow the child to watch this channel for 1 hour or half an hour. So if they are habituated to watch this content, they'll certainly learn, because the content on eVidya, a one class one channel, is prepared by experts, and in your absence, that channel will work as a teacher, and they can learn the content from there. So I use the word, I strongly recommend that you have a small meeting with your parents and say that you advise them to watch TV of the class 8 from this time to this time. Before that, you also see what kind of content is there. You can also to tune in the channel to see what kind of content is delivered, and check at what time content related to English or other subject comes. As such, you try to search for English class itself, so that they can learn beyond your classroom as well. Then if they want to use more repository of library and all, this NROER is there for lots of other content. And then ePathshala, I'll exclusively talk about that, where they can download any kind of content, textbooks and all from ePathshala. Now this CIT is the NCERT's central wing, which is located at NCERT's headquarters, Delhi. And from CIT, we have these platforms. One of them is ePathshala. At the same time, NCERT also has weekly YouTube channels. So on that YouTube channel, so if they're using smartphones, if they don't have access to TV, the content that is telecasted on these 12 channels, some of that content is also live telecasted on YouTube. So you can go to NCERT's live YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to NCERT official. The channel is NCERT official. So if you are subscribed to NCERT official NCERT official YouTube channel, then for learners, they have the counseling sessions also. Like one of the counseling session is Manodarpan, where the learners psychological counseling is done. So there are many and for that age class 8 age group, where they are kishores, they are adolescents. This Kishore Manch is very good channel, where they can get access to lots of psychological counseling to do better in life, to better in learning. So you can also ask the learners to subscribe to Kishore Manch YouTube channel, and from there they can get regular counseling and also get updated with the content. Diksha, I think you always is there. You can enroll on Diksha platform as a student, as a teacher, as a parent, as a stakeholder. For classes 1 to 12, Diksha is very appropriate. So you can always log into Diksha and try to explore some courses. You also suggest your learner to log into Diksha and get some courses. You have this at Diksha, you can always visit there. Then Swam, I just talked about the content, class 12's content. I have prepared one course for class 12, which you can also browse and see. If you wish, you can also enroll for class 12 course. Other courses of other classes are also available. The NISA is one teachers development program, continuous professor development program. So NISTA training has also, you must have been a part of NISTA training. We have trained teachers of primary, and now we are in the process of training teachers of secondary and senior secondary. So if wherever, so on this channel of YouTube, we have lots of videos available to teachers training and also content related. So if you wish, you can also check our NISTA's YouTube channel or NISTA's website, where you have access to lots of pedagogical content. This NISTA is not for the students. NISTA is only for teachers, for your development, for stakeholders like school heads and all, to learn the pedagogy and strategies to make teaching learning situation better in the institution. So you can also check and do your CPD from NISTA's website. I think I have just talked about eVidya channel. Now let's come to textbooks. This textbook e-Pathshala website is there. You have the hard copy available with you. Many of you have this Honeydew, and once the other textbook you have this Once Upon a Time kind of textbook that you have. These two textbooks are there, but they are physical copies. In case it is there that the learners have not carried the textbook anywhere or they are on the go, so you can always suggest your learners to also open the textbook in their cell phones or smartphones, because these textbooks help them. If it is digitally accessible, it's a textbook in their pocket. So in case they are using it, which many of them will mostly be using it, so you suggest them to also have access to digital textbooks, which is available on uh, so the ePathshala website. ePathshala also has an application, so you can ask the learners to open this or download this ePathshala app. You can also should download ePathshala app, and you can log in as user, teacher, parent, or sorry, student, teacher, parent, or educator. And once you get inside, log in as or sign in as a student, you will get access to textbook. If you sign in as a teacher, you'll get access to textbook. At the same time, pedagogical tools. You sign in as a educator, you'll get access to uh, other pedagogical tools that you should apply in the schools, or leadership tools that is there in as educator. So you please download ePathshala app, and there you go to appropriate corner, log in at appropriate section, and access appropriate content. Also, if you see towards the right side, there is a scanner app. So ePathshala app works with two devices. This scanner app is also one application that you can install in your smartphone. And this, for teachers, I strongly recommend that, because if you go to the textbooks of NCERT, every chapter has this QR code. And this QR code means you can scan the QR code using the ePathshala scanner app. As you can see here, the second picture was the right, ePathshala scanner is written. So once you click on the scanner, it will ask you to scan the QR code. So using this e-scanner app, ePathshala scanner app, we scan a chapter that is given, any chapter with the you scan the QR code given in the beginning of the chapter, and once you scan that code, all the content, video, audio, and other content that is mapped with the chapter will be available for you. So they will give you links to access the videos related to the chapter, the audio related to the chapter, the other resources related to the chapter at one place. So this scanner app is very good for teachers and learners to have access to more digital content available or mapped with that particular chapter available online. So I strongly recommend, if you're teaching a chapter, it's the first chapter if you're teaching, please scan the QR code of that chapter and see what content can help you teach the content better. And then first you listen to that, first you watch that, and then prepare the lesson plan, how you want the course to, how you want that chapter to be transacted. So this scanner app is something that should save you of that should guide you and train you and give you ready content at your EG, at your EG access, and you can always rely and depend on the content because they are standard content published by NCERT. So this is ePathshala's website also. So ePathshala has an application plus ePathshala also has a website. So you can also log into epathshala.nic.in. You can log in as educators. These are textbooks for learners. As teachers, also you have textbooks, teacher instruction, learning outcomes, e-resources, periodicals, curricular resources, guidelines, comic books, and all many resources are available. See what is available, what suits you better. Before I move further, Sudha Lakshmi ma'am, is there any question? Yeah.
Yeah, sir. 2, 3 points I observed. You insisted on. They are very useful for our teachers. So which are continuous professional development. For this, you okay. Yeah, you told that you will be other if there is no continuous professional development, not only you will be left behind, the teachers start unlearning. I have seen that also. Yeah, that unlearning happened. So this is very important, and we are we can say it's happy to have this kind of gadget in our hand. With this mobile phone itself, we have so much
Resources,
we can, yeah, resources, and we have so many opportunities. We can learn even from foreign universities also. This is a very wonderful opportunity. So I request all the teachers to focus on that, and at least for half an hour a day, you please focus on something to learn new. As you said, sir, this is a very wonderful advice. One more thing. Now teachers' job made easy with your suggestions, because we have e-Pathshala and all. This QR code itself is giving so much information, as you said. So when we scan the QR code, teachers will get all the resources. So this is like a hand holding for the teacher. So I request all the teachers to use this while preparing their lesson plan and all. So this is wonderful, sir. These 2 points are very should be highlighted, I thought. You transacted in a wonderful way. Yeah, please continue, sir.
Okay, so thank you, ma'am. One study was done by one of my friends in Andhra Pradesh, and I'm giving quoting Andhra Pradesh itself. He did his PhD on CPD, continuous professional development. He found that many teachers, more than 90% of the teachers, are stagnant. They do not want to grow. Do not be happy with. I tell you my example. Sometimes we have to quote ourselves for some other places. I joined as a teacher in Andhra Pradesh in Sri Chaitanya Techno Schools. All of you know that. I served there for 2 months. Then I switched to Kendriya Vidyalaya as PGT English. Uh, Once I was in Kendriya Vidyalaya, after doing my B.Ed, I started doing my PhD. And I did PhD being a service teacher. After doing PhD, during my PhD, I qualified NET. And with these two qualifications, NET and PhD, I switched my job from a PGT English to a state government teacher, to a state university teacher in Bihar. So I, became an assistant professor in JP University, Patna, near Patna, Chapra. After serving for 2 years in JP University, I thought I can do even better. And I had some skills. I equipped myself with certain skills in pedagogies and applied in NCERT. And I switched from there to NCERT. So you see that I kept on, after being a state university teacher, I kept on publishing in journals. I kept on attending conferences and seminars. So not only learning, but also participating at forums where you can share your resources in some seminars, conferences, which has become easier now. You have immediate access to seminars and conferences, and they are so much in number now, so abundant in number now, that you do not think that you cannot be accepted there. So if you just do some writing, and teacher, no other person can be better researcher than teacher. You have lots of opportunity in the classroom. So whatever you are new you are doing, or whatever even something that you are doing with some novelty, some experimentation, try to have a record of that. Try to write a small paper, or try to make a PowerPoint and present it at some other forum. And if it is accepted, that can take you to a next level. So try to continuously update and experiment yourself. Participate in the teachers growth programs or development programs, the forums, the webinars, the seminars that are available, and now they're available at your fingertips. And using your mobile also, you can present now online forums. So be an active member of not only recipient but giver. Accept knowledge and also share your experience to others of whatever new you are doing. So I request you to continuously grow yourself. Very good thing. Unless you grow yourself, again, stagnancy and also getting back, unlearning, as ma'am was suggesting. Now, moving to one thing which is a very highlighted point is called learning outcomes. NCERT had been working on learning outcomes for last 5 and 6 years, and there have been 2-3 documents released. One of the document that you can see here is learning outcomes. If you see teachers after e-textbook and teaching instructions, there is third box which is called learning outcomes. So this learning outcome is for learners, not only for learners but teachers also. For learners, it is for teachers to know what kind of outcome they want in the learners. It's different than objective because end plan best, as to it's not done in the beginning. Rather, you want to see the changes, the learning that happens in the end, at the final product in the learner. What kind of change you want to see? So for every lessons, you should try to have a plan. This learning outcomes are given in 2-page document for class 12 English, class 8 English, as you can see on the screen. It's a 2-page document. If you go to learning outcomes, so log in at and epathshala.nic.in, go to learning outcomes, the third box that you can see there, and there you have this document accessible. If you just scroll down, you have access to this outcome. From this outcome, so they are generic outcomes. They're not they are not topic specific. You have many chapters in the textbook, many other syllabus to teach, but these are kept together to see what kind of change you want. Some of them are related to vocabulary, some of them are related to listening, some of them are related to speaking, some of them are related to reading, some grammar, some dramatize, and some other things. So, for example, towards the right, if you can see, writing is there. So there are learners write answers to textual, non-textual questions. After comprehension, interference, draws character, sketch, attempts extrapolatory writing, writes email, messages, notice, formal letters, descriptions, narratives, personal diary, report, short personal or biographical experience, etc. So now these two are there, and on the top also, 2 more, writes a coherent and meaningful paragraph. The next one writes short paragraphs, coherent in English or Braille or something like that. So these 4 are very specific to writing. Similarly, in the beginning, you have something related to speaking. So now, these are the learner's point of view. Something in light yellow or cream color is what learners will do, and what are the pedagogical process that you will have to follow. So if the learner is writing an email, what kind of input you should give so that this writing happens, they are able to write an email or a message. So all these things, it is divided, the learning outcome is divided into 2 columns. One is the suggested pedagogical process, what kind of processes you should follow, and the other is what kind of learning outcomes you want to see in the what kind of learning outcomes the learner should have after your pedagogical process. So this is available at NCERT's ePathshala also. You can log in from there. And I suggest that whenever you kind of transact a lesson or plan a lesson to be transacted, you be very specific with learning outcomes. If I'm going to have this class, what kind of learning outcomes should the learner have at the end of the class? So before you're leaving, should ensure that whatever you plan for that class, whether that has been achieved by the learner or not. So you should try to design or have achievable learning outcome, something that can be achieved in a 35 or 40-minute class. That's a short-term learning outcome. You can also try to have a long-term learning outcome per semester. So if I want what kind of learning learner should have, what kind of skill the learner should have, or outcome learner should have at the terminal exit of first semester, or a yearly outcome, what kind of outcomes learner should have by the end of the class 8. So you document them well. So whenever you write the learning outcomes, make specific class wise to maybe term wise, year wise. So document the learning outcomes in your lesson plan diary also. That will help you stay focused in the class as to whatever you're going to teach are achievable or has been achieved by the learners or not. So you can use this term also after reading this chapter or after, and doing the suggested activity, the learners will write an email or write a diary entry or read a lesson or something like that. So this kind of tag you can use in your lesson plan diary. Yes. So why learning outcomes? I think I have already explained. So it has a function in society successfully. Learning outcomes will certainly reflect into their behavior, and the learners will be able to use knowledge in the society. They will also be able to use language that they learn in the classroom in their day-to-day activities. It will also develop their interpersonal skills and life skills and communication skills. Uh, and once you have learning outcomes, you have performance focused orientation of the learners. They will also understand the learning outcomes explicitly. Very clearly, They'll understand assessment also. That assessment is not only term and assessment happens every day, every class. So when you have learning outcomes for a class, you will be able to assess by the end of the class whether the outcomes have been achieved by the students or not. We have less number of chapters so that you have more flexibility of trying out all these things. So you can always try to have learning outcomes well documented for every class. It's a suggestion. Then we have pedagogical inputs. So in the textbooks, we have also given pedagogical inputs. So are there suggestions to carry out activities given? In learning outcome document also we have some pedagogical input given. So what are the strategies you have to achieve those learning outcomes? In the textbook also we have given some pedagogical inputs. So what are the pedagogical inputs given to the teacher? So it may be, if it is there, it may be in 2-3 places. One pedagogical input is given in learning outcome document. So the other pedagogical input is given to the teacher's handbook. I'll discuss about that. And still yet another input is given in the textbook itself. So you have many places pedagogical inputs given. All you need is to open your eyes and read these information given for you to plan your lessons well. All right. If it is not given, do write to us. We'll give you some pedagogical inputs. If you have some problem related to a pedagogy of a particular chapter, you can write to me, gmato.ncert at gmail.com. I'll certainly send you something back about that particular topic. Teacher's handbook. I think NCERT has published a teacher's handbook for every class. For a class 8, it's there. So maybe your teacher or Shudha ma'am or some other may have access to some of the textbook. If it is not there, you can also write to headquarters and they'll supply certain number of textbooks for teachers, some handbooks for teachers. So I request the authorities to look into this matter, whether the teachers can have access to handbooks. And I strongly recommend that you can contact NCERT. If sufficient numbers are not there, they'll print it and send it to you on demand. So it's available on demand. Many teachers don't purchase, so we don't print it in large number. But if you require, I think it's a very important thing, and I highly depend on that. You can have teacher's handbook, and orientation can also be given as to how to use that textbook. It's a very handy tool and gives lots of pedagogical inputs and resources for planning the lessons and transact the chapters of the textbook in the classroom. Before I move further, any query about learning outcome or teacher's handbook or anything, if there is any kind of query in the YouTube channel, YouTube text message, that can be asked.
Yes, sir. They are asking for a soft copy of teacher handbook. I saw 1 or 2 queries.
Yes.
Getting printed material may take time, but as classes are going to start, better if you can supply the PDF of the teacher handbook, soft copy itself. We can circulate it to our teachers. It's really, really wonderful. I have gone through. Every teacher has to go through the book one or twice or thrice, not only one time. So I mean, that's such a beautiful, it's a really hand holding, I felt. So that handbook is very nice,
Soft
very,
copy. So
very useful.
I'll contact the headquarters. It's not available on ePathshala. I'll check if it is available on ePathshala or some other place, or I'll contact the headquarters and try to supply a soft copy at least immediately for the
Yeah,
teachers.
please,
I'll,
please,
yeah.
please.
Thank you. Thank you,
Please
ma'am.
continue. Yeah.
Yes. Now let's come to the textbooks of class 8. There are two textbooks of class 8, as you can see there. Two textbooks are there for class 8. One of them is Honeydew, as you can see, and the other is It So Happened. So these are the two textbooks given for the learners and learners to read. These are the textbook for learners, teachers to use them in the classroom for teaching. Now let me see the textbook development team, and I'll brief you about the team. So the chairman of this team was Professor Nambar Singh. He was from NCERT. The chief advisor of the book was Professor R. Amritvalli, a retired faculty now from from EFL University, Hyderabad. So I have just talked about that. She has been a very active member of the textbook development team from IFLU. And the other member is Madhvi Gayatri Raman. She's a faculty now. She's a teacher, and she also visited Bhopal for some course we're developing. We're developing a course called, I'll contact Shudha ma'am and the team. We're developing a course called Teaching of English, DCT, Diploma Course in the Teaching of English, to be launched from next year. That will be a wonderful course for the teachers of school teachers teaching English subject. And next year we'll have a trial version. So it's a tryout course from January 2023, and that course will not be charging any fee. Next year after tryout, it will be funded about 25,000 fee we're keeping it. But next year for a tryout version, there will not be any fee. So this course, Madhvi Raman is also involved in the preparation of the manuals for teachers. Sorry, the modules for teachers. Also recorded some videos. So I request some of the teachers who are listening to me, once the advertisement comes, I'll also circulate it to Shudha Lakshmi ma'am. She can circulate to the learners. Some of the learners can enroll to that. It will be a blended mode program. We'll call you just for 1 or 2 months here at Bhopal, but mostly you will have self-learning materials Monday through Friday, videos, infographics, and all. So it will be a self-learning material with some inputs face to face. So Madhvi Raman has been involved into that. So it's a very good program. And she has been the one who has also written the textbook of class 8 for you. So she was a member of the committee of textbook writers. And there were many other people also. And we also welcome, so that though the textbook is written, we also welcome the comments on the textbook. So if you have any suggestions to make, you please write to us so that we can forward this to the team and they can make changes according to your suggestions. So they're open to suggestions and improvements. Yes, I'll start from what not to teach. First, most of us say that what to teach. I'll start with what not to teach. And the first thing that I'll suggest is what not to teach is the supplementary reader textbook, which is called It So Happened. This textbook is not for teaching. First thing I make it clear, this textbook is written for self-learning by the learners, and it is not to be taught explicitly in the classroom the way you teach between the line the other textbook Honeydew. So it is for mostly meant for self-learning, motivate self-learning, how it is planned. So the main objective of this supplementary reader is to promote among learners the habit of reading independently. Look at that. Not being dependent on the learners, reading independently with interest, understanding, and enjoyment. So learners should not be dependent on you, should promote this habit in the learner so that they read it. And the language of this textbook is so easy. If you compare both the textbooks, you'll see slightly Honeydew is slightly more challenging vocabulary with new words, but this It So Happened has very simple words used, very simple vocabulary used. So it promotes self-learning with some understanding of English language. If the learner tries to read, the vocabulary, the language is so easy, so downgraded, so they'll be able to learn it on their own. So it's not meant for teaching, but questions will be there. So unless you motivate them to read and check that they have read, understood, and can comment, you should not leave it. So the teacher's role will be to ensure that self-learning has happened and the learners have gone through it and they have understood it. There lies your main role. It seeks to, I'm reading some notes that is given in the supplementary reader to the teacher. The second point, it seeks to enable them to read independently. Again, this word independently is repeated. To read independently in the sense that they would not expect the book to be taken up page by page in the classroom. So learners should not expect that this, you make it clear in the beginning, I am not going to teach it between the line in the class. I think I'm not going against the thing that is discussed at NCERT, but how this book is written, I don't think this is not written to be taught in the classroom. So, but teaching does not, I've said teaching not between the line, but does not mean learning. Learning should happen, and teacher will ensure how learning has happened. So you have to ensure that learning has maybe if required. If the learner cannot read at home, you allow the learner to read in the classroom. You say that 4 paragraphs of this chapter you are going to read, and then we are going to discuss these 4 paragraphs in the class. Allow them to sit in the group of 4 or 5 students. Let them read, let them discuss, and discuss in the smaller group of 4 or 5, and then discuss it to the whole class about 1 paragraph. So if they sit in group of 3, 4, then they can explain the meaning maybe in the regional language also, which we allow. And then they can certainly discuss it to the whole class. So if they read in groups, certainly reading will happen. So reading in groups, reading in the class, under the supervision of the teacher is required. It is reading, self-learning, and not the teacher looking at the words, explaining the paragraph, explaining the meaning to the learners. So it's not to be taught, it's meant to be self-read. They would rather read it on their own. So the third line, they would rather read it on their own and later share and confirm their responses and appreciation with the teacher and the peer group through discussions, questions, and wherever possible, even role play. So they can read one particular paragraph, discuss it with the class, discuss it with the teacher, discuss it with their peers, their friends, answer certain questions asked by the peers or the teachers, and even role play it. If there is something where dramatization is possible, they can role play it, show it. If they cannot speak, they can show it as to what has happened. So this is not meant to be taught, rather to be learned. The book contains 11 pieces, chapter 1 to chapter 11. 11 is stories, in fact, how the camel has his hump, children at work, the selfish giant, the treasure within, Princess September, the fight, the open window, jalebis, the Comet 1, the Comet 2, ancient education system in India. So there are about 11 pieces. Each 11 piece has been divided into 2 or 3 meaningful sections. Now, how the camel has got its hump is not a single reading text. It's divided into smaller parts. So there will be 3 parts, so that part can be managed in one class. So it's divided into meaningful parts. So you should know why this is divided into parts, so that you can teach that in no particular manageable time. So either the learner can self-read it at home, or they can be motivated to read in the classroom. So many manageable sections they are divided into. Each section briefly summarized in point form without revealing crucial turns and twists in the storyline, thus sustaining readers' curiosity and interest. So in the beginning or end of the section, there is some summary also, which is given inside the box or some other places. So some point is also given, but it is ensured that even teachers, when you transact these lessons or when you discuss these lessons in the class and motivate them to read, do not reveal the main points of the story, twists and turns of the story, climax of the story. Allow the learners to read and find out the climax as to what happened. So you give some input, Maybe you can also use, if possible, regional language up to class 8 is allowed by or recommended by NEP 2020. So explain some part of the story, build their curiosity, say that now you read further to understand what exactly has happened. Do not reveal the curiosity while you are revealing the story. So while you are narrating the story, do not reveal the curiosity. Allow the learners to read and find out what exactly happened. Then there are some comprehension checks given at the end of the session so that they can check. You can also ask these questions orally in the classroom to see or to ensure that proper or sufficient understanding has happened to the learners in the classroom. So that comprehension checks given. The format is being tried to make comprehension easier and concentration keener. This format of having parts or having comprehension check or having brief summary is tried so that comprehension can happen better and easier. Each piece is also followed by a set of questions. So there are some questions at the end of every chapter which adds to the understanding. So comprehension questions are framed in such a way that if they read questions also, in the question some information is given so that they will understand some part of the topic. And at many places topics or discussion group they can understand. And then there is something called critical thinking or think it over. Ponder and that think it over are largely such quotations as have a direct bearing to the theme of the story. So think it over is something that motivate learners to reflect, think, and see what kind of thing are going to happen. Most of them are related to theme also. So something points that are mentioned under think it over is also very important. And the teachers mostly ignore these points. They just go to the texts that are written, the storyline. They do not go to the think it over. They do not go to comprehension check. They do not go to summary also. Motivate the learners to have, because they are the ones that explain the learners as to what exactly happened without revealing the curiosity. So allow the learners to self-read and use these boxes as proper comprehension checks and supplements to their reading. Some quotations are also given, maybe immediately given. Some quotations may not be immediately comprehensible to the learners. So there may be some places, that means self-reading. I don't say exactly all the self-reading. So there may be some points, some quotations, some tasks that may not be easily comprehensible by the learners. Teachers may therefore want to play a direct role in explaining, simplifying, or paraphrasing lines or topics and suggest appropriate subtopics to facilitate a focused discussion in small groups. I said this is a small group discussion in the classroom. The whole classroom cannot discuss it. So maybe a group of 4 or 5 can do that. And whenever you find either you see that something is very challenging for learners, or ask the learners to check with you, or ask the learners to ask you as to what are the difficult areas for them. So what are the portions, one particular quotation, one particular line, one particular sentence, one particular word which they fail to understand. You can go and explain that, not to the whole class, I can repeat, not to the whole class but to the small group. So if a particular group has got some issues, they are self-reading it in smaller groups. You are moving around in the classroom to explain that particular word, line, phrase, or kind of paragraph to them, small group. And in turn, they can discuss this to the whole class if so required. So the teacher's role is very crucial in simplifying the difficulty areas or difficult portions that the learners find while self-reading the topics of it so happen. All questions should be attempted orally before well-formulated answers are put down on paper. This is very important. So allow them to speak in full sentences, not in words. Whenever it happens, you ask them to speak simple sentences. But first check oral responses. This, it so happened, has most oral responses than written answers. Questions are very limited in number. It so happened has hardly 5-6 questions at the end of the chapter. So you ask them, and they're mostly theme-based question, no vocabulary question, no grammar question, nothing of that sort is given. Mostly theme-based questions are given in the book supplementary. It so happened. So that motivates them to answer the questions related to theme. So check them with them orally whether they have understood the lessons or not without you teaching them. Discussion on related topics should be encouraged so that learners get opportunity to go beyond the book and feel inspired to reach hitherto undiscovered vital, vistas of the knowledge and pleasure. Two things I suggest here. First thing is that when you ask students to answer a question related to theme-based question of supplementary reader, ask others to supplement. So if the child has given one part of the answer, something is still there, more topics are to be covered, more ideas are to be added. Check in the class what others can add to, and then you make it a comprehensive answer. Then you say that, okay, in this question, this happened first, this happened next, this happened next, this happened last. So all the 4 points given by 3 or 4 students can be summed up by you. That makes a comprehensive answer. And then you can retell the whole answer in one go and ask the learners to write the answer in the paper. And then you check it whether they have written well or not. Also, if they have some topics are there which can link them to real life situations. So if they have something to link from their real life situation, encourage them to quote those incidences or real life situations in the classroom. That will make things, make application of the knowledge in the classroom. So allow the learners to relate the content into their real life situations outside the classroom. So these are the 2 points you should be doing. So this is, I sum up again this part. This is related to what not to teach, and we discussed that the supplementary reader, it so happened, is meant for self-reading, and teacher's role is not to teach it between a line in the class, but to ensure that sufficient learning has happened and learners have got sufficient comprehensibility of the pieces given in the text. This is also meant for self, reading an unseen passage in the examination. In the examination, they have unseen passage, and this textbook is written mostly to enable the learners to self-read any piece and answer the questions that follow. This whole book is designed for learners to enable them to read any piece of information which is new and understand it, comprehend it, and answer the questions that are there. So you cannot later on say that NCERT textbook is only theme based, and in CBSE there is one first section called reading section, and there is nothing given by NCERT for reading section. This textbook is meant for self-learning, self-reading, and answer the questions that come in section A of the CBSE curriculum. I hope I made my point clear. The story is amply illustrated. So the story also has images, deal with the themes of cooperation. So these are themes: cooperation, compassion, respect, and love of flora and fauna, the nature, forest, etc. Sound decision-making capacity, science fiction, education, peace and harmony. These are some of the areas covered by this story. It is hoped that the young readers find the book enjoyable and rewarding and will feel motivated to read extensively on their own to become proficient readers in the years to come. So, this is motivating the learners to read more and more. Before I move to the next section, is there any question related to supplementary reader?
Not, I don't say it's a question, sir, but what I understood is teacher should be more a facilitator than a teacher for supplementary reader, and can use this textbook for reading, self-reading of the student. And if they have any 5 to 10 minutes time in the class also, they can ask the students to go through one para. So it happens, if it happens every day, they can students can develop a habit of reading and reading a unseen passage. So teachers can use this opportunity in both ways, making the student a habit of reading and using it for examination as a reading and answering the questions for unseen passage. So this is very useful in that way. And the teacher has to plan to be a more facilitator. Just they have to introduce the story to the children in their own words and arise a kind of curiosity among them to read, and then they have to make them to read. So students who are very much interested can complete it at home also, and other students can learn from the good readers. So this can be a group activity and more self-learning. So very useful activity and very interesting, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can continue with the
Thank,
textbook. Nice.
thank you, ma'am. Now, I suggest one more strategy. What you can do is that when you have reading section, so when you go to the classroom, maybe after 3-4 units, once you have already discussed 3-4 pieces, maybe in some time you can be more facilitator for first 2-3 stories because the learners may be young, the background. So you can also explain, leaving the curiosity, not revealing the curiosity, some points in the regional language and say that now you read it. So first you explain part of the story, not the whole story, in your own language, simplified language, even using some words in the mother tongue, and then ask them to read it. That's one way of explaining something so that if they read it, they should be able to understand it better. The second way is that whenever you have reading passages, examination has reading passages. So what you do is that start with one paragraph. So what you do is that you allow them to read one paragraph, maybe after some explaining with chapter 3rd or 4th, maybe unit 4, or not piece 4 or 5th. There you say that now we are going to discuss a paragraph wise, and you ask them to read one paragraph, just one paragraph. Write some questions on the board if you have a board available. So ask them to read one paragraph and write some questions on the board. Ensure that these questions that you write also has some explaining words. These questions also explain part of the story, not curiosity, part of the paragraph. So well phrased question, and then you ask them, ask individual learners what you have understood by that. So paragraph wise, if you start discussing it, so what exactly you are doing is that you are asking them to read one unseen passage, unseen paragraph, and you are asking some related questions. So that way you are indirectly preparing them to answer the questions that come in the first section, which is reading section. And after that you can slowly start increasing the paragraphs. Maybe after 3-4 classes, you ask them to read 2 paragraphs together. Then after 2-3 classes, ask them to read 3 paragraphs together and answer the questions. So that way they start using larger body of the text, larger volume of the text, and answer the questions. They'll be able to see, okay, which question relate to which paragraph. In the beginning, they related all the questions to one paragraph. Later on, they're relating all the questions to 2 different paragraphs and finding which question goes to which paragraph, where they can find the answer. So gradually you increase their difficulty level. So that way for the reading section. Moving to now what to teach. So this is a book called Honeydew, which is there, the main textbook. So that doesn't mean the supplementary is not the main one. But many times the teachers think there's only textbook I have to teach. So you have to teach both, but this is the main focus because it has lots of questions, etc. given there. There are about 10 chapters, 10 topics, along with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 poetry. So about 7 poems and 10 pieces are given. The book has about 140 pages, around 135, 40 pages about. So this is the main course book that you have to discuss and ensure that maximum learning happens, because this is all the kind of questions, vocabulary related, grammar related, theme related, reading, listening, speaking, writing, all questions, all types of questions are there. Set at the end of that. It's a very comprehensive analysis of the chapter is given at the end. So this is a textbook that you should be focusing or teaching in the classroom. Now you understand, in the whole year, 12 months, even if you remove one or 2 months of summer and other breaks, one chapter to be taught in 1 month. Plenty of time, more than required time to teach one chapter. And the poetry is very small. So one chapter to discuss either one prose lesson and poetry, or just one poetry. In case of chapter 6, chapter 9 and 10, you don't have a poetry. So you have 1 month, roughly 1 month to teach one topic. So that means you have plenty of time to carry out the activity. This means that the topics that are given, beyond explaining that topic, you need to really carry out those activities in more number of classes. Do not just rely on explaining the meaning of the story and asking one or two theme-based questions and done. You have to be very, very specific with activities. So one class can go to one just grammar exercise given in the given at the end of the chapter. One class go on to the listening exercise, that activity is given there. So that way you have 1 month. In 1 month, even if you count the number of teaching days, there will not be less than 15, 16 teaching days for one topic, one unit to be completed. So even if you exclude supplementary either and the other thing, supplementary either 4 or 5 days, 10 days you have to teach one unit. So more than sufficient. 2, 3 classes you can design to explain the meaning, but remaining 6, 7 classes should go with the chapter and exercises, because all other skills related to language will come from the and exercises there. Some foreword about this book is given. I'll read some of that. It's given in the book. You can also refer to that. Children's life at school must be linked to the real life outside the school. I have already stressed that. So you try to make it as pragmatic as possible and real life related as possible. So relate it to the real life situations. The principal marks a departure from the legacy of bookish learning, which continued to shape our system and causes a gap between the school, home, and community. They felt a gap between school, home, and community when there is no relation of classroom or textbook knowledge into real life situations. So you should ensure that the knowledge that they gain in the classroom should be used in the real life situations. And how you'll do that, check whether related information can be used in the society, in the community where they belong to. They also attempt to, so the previous systems of education also attempted to discourage rote learning and maintenance of sharp boundaries between different subject areas. So there should be discouragement of rote learning. There should not be just mugging it up, mugging the answer and producing the examination. The questions that CBSE will ask in the class 12 or class 10 may not be exactly the same as the chapter and questions. That means they should be able to use any question, related question in the examination. So merely mugging up or rote learning will not help. Merely memorizing the answers of the questions will not help. So they should be able to do similar answers, to write similar answers for a differently asked question also. Treating the prescribed textbook as the sole basis of examination of the key reasons why other resources and other sites of learning are ignored. So prescribed textbook cannot be the only basis for examination. That will be one ground, but it cannot be exact basis. The questions that are asked, I also request Sudha ma'am, when you are designing questions from NCERT for the whole state, say that only textbook and questions at the end of the textbook should not be there. There should be application based questions where the knowledge learned inside the classroom in the chapters can be applied in the real life situations. Maybe if they have learned something about war, say the first unit has some reference of the war, they can try to relate it to the war of their own country. If there is a first unit related to World War, first World War, they have also witnessed war happening at many places. Now also many of them have news about the war happening in the globe, between two countries. Now, when they are relating it to the war that is happening at the other part of the world, every day, some other point or newspaper, they have this war happening between Ukraine and Germany. So, if they have this first unit, why don't you ask them to relate it to, okay, you say that, now read the newspaper or try to find out the piece of news about these two countries, either online or from a newspaper. Explain the whole context of war in the class. So they have read the story and now they're relating that story to the real life situation happening at other part of the globe, or maybe in Indian context itself. Maybe if no war, some previous wars that happened in the country, if not war of now, they can check with the war that happened between India and the neighboring countries. So they can try to relate it to the history or the real life that is happening outside. So this linkage is very essential. Unless the learner is able to relate the knowledge into the real life situation, the learning is not complete. It's completely a textbook knowledge or bookish knowledge. We do not encourage bookish knowledge. We encourage real life knowledge where the textbook's knowledge can be applicable to real life situations. Encourage children to reflect, which means think a lot. Maybe in the beginning, they can have allowed thinking in the class where they can share their knowledge, share their understanding, share their related information related to the field, their own, learning, their own recalling, their own learning, and to pursue imaginative activities and questions. So they can reflect on the learning, they can reflect on the knowledge, and then they can think, imagine, and they can try to answer questions, or they can have more questions related to that. So if there is a war, they can ask questions: was India also part of World War? If yes, how many soldiers would have been there sent to what places? Let them imagine. So maybe they don't have a direct answer, and you also don't need to provide direct answer to all these questions. Let them be open-ended questions. Let them go and find out the answers. So you can say that these questions are related. Think of how many soldiers might have died in the World War from India. Why India participated in the World War? Was there any motivation for India to participate in the World War? So if we are thinking of, why some people supported India's participate in the war while others could not support it. These may be some of the questions, just some of the critical thinking questions where learners can reflect to and provide answer to. Was India dependent or independent during the time? If India was not dependent, how come India participate? Who led India to participate into that? All these simple questions also. So some factual questions, some reflective questions can be asked related to what. Then only the real application of this may happen. We must recognize that given space, time, and freedom, children generate new knowledge by engaging with information passed on to them by adults. So as adults, we give them information, but they can generate their own knowledge based on real life situations, based on their own construction, their own time, their own knowledge, their own capacity, their own reflective power. So inculcating creativity and initiative is possible if we perceive and treat children as participants in learning. We call constructivism. Constructivism. They are participants in knowledge creation. They are participants in knowledge generation, not as just receivers of the fixed body of knowledge. They should not be just passive learners sitting in the classroom and receiving the knowledge. Rather, they should share the knowledge that they have, little knowledge that they have, or reflective question they have, curiosity they have related to these textbooks, related to these chapters of the textbook. You motivate them to ask as many questions as possible. Have the motivation in the class. The learner who asks maximum questions will be given some rewards. It's not required that I always say it's not required that you answer all the questions. Let there be questions itself in the class. Make a class question session related to the topic. These reflective questions will make them think, and some of them may be also able to come up with answers. Maybe one class you can give some answer, or maybe then and there, if you know some of the answers definitely for sure, then you can answer. Otherwise, let there be questions itself. Questions increase curiosity. Questions increase reflective power. Let the learners have more of reflection than just receiving the knowledge from you. Flexibility in the daily timetable is necessary. So that doesn't mean that you should be very rigid to the timetable. You should be given some flexibility. As said, you have lots of classes where you have flexibility. You have more than 10 classes to teach one unit, one topic of this honeydew. So while you're implementing annual calendar and all, some flexibility can be given. Or when from NCERT level, they are preparing the annual calendar for the transition of syllabus, they can also see as to how much flexibility you are giving to the learners. One class can be a question class. One class, similar kind of thing can be given, and explain it to them as to why this class is termed as questioning class, why this class termed as reflective class, not questioning, call it reflective class. So why? Because in that class, teachers are supposed to encourage the learners to ask as many questions as possible. So necessary freedom can be given to the teachers to devote some particular areas of teaching. Maybe one class where when you are saying that in this month, say in the month of April, the first unit is being discussed, first unit of Honeydew is being discussed. First three classes you divide into smaller parts also. You say that in January, in Honeydew, first topic, then have further subdivision. Three classes to explanation of topic, explaining the topic. One class to vocabulary, one class to grammar, one class to listening, one class to speaking. That way, 10 classes allotted to chapter 1 can further be divided for the suitability of the teacher to carry out flexibly more activities. This should not be completely rigid followance of the timetable. The methods used for teaching and evaluation will also determine how effective this textbook proves for making children's life at school a happy experience rather than a source of stress or boredom. You encourage them to talk so much, try to use target language, English, talk so much that it becomes their experience sharing happy experience and not just sitting in the class and listening to you all the time the way it is happening now. I'm really sorry, but I don't have any method of approaching you. Otherwise, you would have longer session. Had there been a face-to-face mode class, I would have encouraged you to ask a lot of questions in my class. But because I'm connected to you through YouTube, it's not possible to take a lot of questions and I have limited time. But you have unlimited time. You use those for making it a wonderful experience in the classroom, for allowing learners to ask questions and share their experience and make it a happy learning experience. The textbook attempt to enhance their endeavor by giving higher priority in space to opportunities for contemplation and wondering. Again, reflection, contemplation, thinking, and wondering. Discussion in small groups and activities requiring hands-on experience, something they can experience in the real life situations. Encourage children to reflect on their own reading and to pursue imaginative activities and questions. I have already talked about that. We must recognize that given, I think, I have already talked about that. I have move further. Yeah, so they can carry out the activities in the real life situations. Uh, is before I move further, is there any question related to it so happen? We'll discuss more about that. Is there any question related to it so happen? Sorry, the second one.
Yes, sir.
Honeydew, yeah.
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yes.
Because you are telling that CBSE's examination should be in application mode. We are teaching the topic and we are asking the students to questions on how the language should be applied. So, to enhance this, what kind of activities teachers have to take up? As you know, due to pandemic, for the last 2 years, there was a learning loss, especially in English because it's a foreign language. Almost the students forgot to write even simple sentences. So, teachers are worried about this kind of assessment. First of all, how to make them right and which activities we have to take up to make them perform better in their assessment and so language expression first of all, so correct language expression, how to improve that, which activities teachers have to take up this is a big question for us. Yeah, please.
Right. So I think it's a very valid question because there is a pressure on the teachers to allow them to pass in the examination with good marks, and this pressure is built on, and the pandemic has increased this burden further because many of the learners are not able to write simple sentences or expression. Writing and speaking, they are similar; they are both outputs. So how to have them in this class when, especially when there has been some learning loss, more learning loss during pandemic. Now we have to take from the scratch, start from the beginning, allow them to write simple words, allow them to write some words or phrases. So I tell you one principle that I had met in my career as PGT in northeastern states. He had made a decision that in my class, I'm not going to use English. Whenever I visit the class, I'm going to use English language with at least English teachers. So he visited one of my classes as inspection. As an inspector, he said, I'll sit your class and inspect your class. Sat in my class. I was an English teacher while he was a non-English person. Like many of the learners, he had very little knowledge about English. So he found that in the class there were certain pieces of paper in the classroom. They were rolled by the learners at the back of the class, and they were lying here and there. So he got up in after the class. He got up and he pointed at certain learners, said, "Learners, paper, folded, pick, dustbin, throw." Just I was quite looking at the principal. What kind of language he has used? Just some words. But in the sequence, these content words are so well arranged that they give the meaning. So maybe in the beginning, we do not allow them to have completely meaningfully correct sentences. Maybe let's start them to start from scratch, from beginning, write some keywords, some content words, meaningfully arranged, ascending order in the level of meanings. What comes first? What maybe some content words, and then start them to help them to put some of the auxiliary verbs in proper format. I have also one of the one word file where I have discussed how from small word level to sentence level you can allow learners to write. I don't think I have time to share that here, but I'll share that with Sudha ma'am, and she can share that with the teachers. There, I have discussed in about 10-15 pages. It's for teachers as to how, from sentence level, they can move the learners to bigger level. Let me see if I can share that immediately. Give me some moment. I'll just share some parts from there. Oh, I hope my screen is visible on this screen. Visible not? Screen is not visible now.
Yes, sir. That forward is displayed.
Okay, I think I have got there. I have to just yeah. Just give me a minute. I'll share one document.
I feel this kind of activity should be a daily based activity.
Daily
Every
basis.
day, in every class,
Mhm.
every session, it should take place. They should write something, even like bits and pieces. They have to answer some question, even in words,
Yes,
broken words.
allow me to share a different slide. Stop sharing.
Yeah, please.
I am sharing a different Word file. I hope it is there. Writing a good sentence. Yes. Look at some of the activities I have given. It's a basic difference between make, clause, supporting. The length of sentence should be simple. The sentences, the shorter the sentence, the better it is. So allow the learners to write 3-4 words per sentence. Say that the longer sentence we don't expect. Many of them write bigger sentence. They write, but it becomes difficult for them to write shorter sentence. I allow them to just use 2 or 3 content words. As you can see in the activity 2, there was a beggar. He begs to live. He sleeps on the ground because he has no house to live in. He's poor but an honest man. He has no family and friends. God is both his family and friend. So read the following clauses carefully and identify them as simple sentence, compound, and complex sentence. Out of these, third is a compound. As a compound sentence. The first, second, is the simple sentence. So ask them to write simple sentences. And now look at this activity, length of sentence, how they are arranged. There was a cat in original paragraph I'm referring to, the right side. There was a cat. It was very fat. Look at the simple sentences there. There was a cat. It was very fat. It ran after a rat. The rat saw the cat. The rat ran fast to escape the cat. The cat tried to catch it, but it could not match the rat's speed. The rat jumped into the pit. The cat stood there bewildered. Just 51 words in this. But then there has been so much repetition of rat cat that these simple sentences are becoming very monotonous. So Similarly, it can be rewritten as a fat cat ran after a rat. Seeing the rat ran very fast to escape it. The rat tried to catch it, but it could not match the rat's speed. The rat jumped into a pit. The cat stood there bewildered. This looks pretty better. So ask them to write simple sentences first, then combine these simple sentences to avoid monotony and make it better. Similarly, look at this paragraph. This is a paragraph of using different sentence openers and pronouns. Ravi decided to visit a deserted mansion after he finished reading the ghost story. He entered the mansion with his heart in his mouth. He brushed the cobwebs with his hand. He found some broken skeletons in the mansion. He was very frightened and anxious. He went upstairs. He collected his breath on the top of the mansion. He phoned and informed his friend about it. He decided to leave the mansion quickly. He lost his way because he was frightened. Now, this sentence has lots of he's, lots of pronouns. So this looks again very monotonous. This can be rephrased by different sentence openers. Look at the time clause. After he finished reading the story, Ravi decided to visit the mansion. So first we started with Ravi, but second, in the original paragraph, Ravi decided to visit a mansion, deserted mansion. But second part of the story sentence is brought first. Then with his heart in his mouth, he is brought after this comma, his mouth. Then everywhere we have tried to put the first part of the sentence was the second part after inserting a comma over there. Now, this after he finished reading the ghost story, Ravi decided to visit a deserted mansion. With his heart in his mouth, he entered the mansion. Raising his hand, he brushed the cobwebs. In the mansion, he found some broken skeletons. Frightened and anxious, he went upstairs. On the top of the mansion, he collected his breath. Then he found his friend, and informed him about it. Quickly, he decided to leave the mansion. Because Ravi was frightened, he lost his way. Firstly, Ravi was alone. Secondly, he was frightened. Thirdly, it became dark. Then there was no one to help. The story is open. Ask them to fill the blanks. So what happened after that? How he came out from there? So you start with the simple sentences, with clauses, with some words. You can also, allow them to make better use of adjectives as it is used here. So better use of adverbs and many others, so conjunctions and all. So this allows them to write a very simple sentence. So you can use this word file, which I'll share with Shudha ma'am, to develop more of self-writing, smaller writing activities in the classroom. All right. So, or also what you can do is that you teach something and say that now, using some words given in the textbook itself, you write some simple sentences about it. Write as 5 sentences about this paragraph in your classroom, in the classroom itself in a notebook. Just 5 sentences, simple sentences using 4 or 5 words only. Say them to write. So if they write it in using simple words, they will be able to do it, have it a practice every day. Maybe in every class, if you find that all the students are doing very bad, every day 5 to 10 minutes may be devoted to writing 5 sentences in the class. Check it then and there. Do not keep it for the next day. While they are writing, you are moving. You are helping them to write correct sentences. So that way, a small activity in the classroom. So one small paragraph reading, and write followed by a writing activity related to that paragraph, open book, picking some words from the textbook itself and writing some simple sentences in their own words can be developed, can be done in the classroom over a period of 1 or 2 months. And I think there will be considerable progress because they have words available in front of them in the textbooks. They have some help available in form of teacher moving around the class. They are doing it with the help of their peers. They can also discuss that. So that way, small activity in the class can help them write better. I hope I have solved the query, ma'am.
Yes, sir. It's wonderful. What I understood is it's a simple process like reading one paragraph and summarizing in one words, simple words, and
Yes.
making them write in 4 or 5 sentences in the classroom itself. So
Right.
it should be a daily activity in each and every class. So that improves reading as well as writing. These are
Right.
most needed, sir. These
Yes.
two are most needed to develop reading with understanding and
Right.
expressing. Yes, sir?
Right.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Right, right. So I think this reading and writing can go together. So some part reading, so maybe a class of 40 minutes, maybe 30 minutes reading, and the last 10 minutes writing while the teacher's moving in the class and giving on the spot help to the learners to write it better. Then and there, small corrections. Don't give the correction to the whole class. Small, then and there correction in the class. So this will certainly help them. Now I have got some more. I don't know how long I'll be able to go from here. We have more inputs in the class, which I'll discuss. There is one inside the classroom. You have lots of input. Teacher is just one input. Your language should be a model for the learners because teacher is the model. They model you, so you are the main source of input. Then learners are the main, the other source of input in the class because learners have access to a lot of knowledge, their previous knowledge, their own language, and then the textbook which NCERT provides, the non-print input which they watch on the smartphone and other places, your language, the learner's language, their communication. A lot of inputs that are there in the class. You have to decide that what input you are, how you are making best use of these inputs in the classroom. So many inputs are there, and moving beyond in the classroom, you have many things. Multilingualism can be one of the main resources. You can rely on the multilingual aspect of the learners. You can use their language as the resource in the classroom. So, for example, if you want a story to be read, I said that you can explain the story in the learner's own language, or you can ask the other learner to explain it to the to the one student to explain it to the other groups in their own language, so that their language can also be used as a resource in the classroom. We do not demotivate the learners who are not using the target language. However, we try as much as possible to use the target language, but unless they're proficient in the target language, say in this case English, they can be promoted, they can be allowed to use the learner's language also to develop the target language learning. Look at the introduction, give a good warm-up activity for learner. Every unit has some warm-up activity, so see that the lesson is well introduced, there is proper recapitulation given, the recapitulation of the previous chapter or the previous unit, if it is there, can also be done. If you are giving more than one class, every class should have the previous classes summing up so that the learner can immediately relate that class to the previous class, and the students who are absent can also relate or understand, at least in brief, about something that happened in the previous class. Vocabulary, when it comes to that, related to the real life situation, when it comes to giving some active vocabulary, make it a habit. Try that the learner have a class wise vocabulary diary. So ensure that the learner keeps one small book, a small diary of vocabulary, and chapter wise vocabulary can be discussed. It can be can be developed in the classroom. So chapter 1, ask them not to write more than 15 words, 10 to 15 words. So whatever new words you explain, say that you write the word and you write the meaning in your own words, not in the words, not in the teacher's words, but the meaning should be written in the learner's own words. And make it a activity, make it an activity that every class they write about 4 to 5 words in that, not more than that. More than 5 words will be a challenge burden for them. So explain 4 or 5 words and ask them to connect it to their own context and write the meaning of the words in their own language, or in their own words, and also write some examples in the target language. So if there is an example given in the book, say that what else you can write about this using similar word, what else, that will also help them relate to the real life situation. So, having one vocabulary diary or vocabulary dictionary, class specific, subject specific for class 8 for English, one small vocabulary book or vocabulary notebook or dictionary of the class, every learner's individual dictionary will certainly motivate them to pick up a lot of words from the class. You can also motivate them. The one who writes more words will get more motivation. And you ask them to write beautifully using two, three different colors, words using a blue color, or words using a black color, meaning using a blue color, or so examples using some other color. So that way, if you it will be multicolor, so that they can easily find out this is the main word, this is the definition, this is the example. So this way they can start building their vocabulary, and also examples will help them to write meaningfully correct sentences. Give them some examples in the beginning. If they cannot write their own examples, you can give examples, write the examples on the board, ask them to copy it, but slowly encourage them to write their own examples of the words that you have given. I'll skip about this vocabulary. For vocabulary development, you can also have some activities like word and Antakshari in the class, where the last letter of the word can be the input for the next letter's beginning. So that way you can also have some games in the class where the learners can use or can supply the words related to the last letter of the word. So last letter of word, I repeat, the last letter of word can be the first letter of the next word to be supplied by 2-3 different groups. So divide this class into smaller groups. So ask them to play a word and Antakshari in the class, where they can play also with words in the class and explain the meanings of the words to the students with sentences examples, or allow the group to explain the meaning and give the meaning to the class if the word seems to be slightly unfamiliar to the other group. Similarly, word puzzles, a crossword puzzle in some activity, also some in the textbook also some word puzzles are given. If it is not given, you can draw some word puzzles from the class or in their notebooks, and they can also play some words puzzles in the classroom where they can like continue with the words. Say for example, the first child has written the word A. A is a word, is a letter also, but it's a one letter word. So the first letter starts with A, one letter word. The second student adds, you have drawn a big crossword puzzle on the screen. The first learner has provided a one letter word called A. He gets 1 point. The second letter adds to the word, to the letter A with an N. So he has written N, and this has become two letter word N, A and N. So that learner who supplied a two letter word or added one letter, he gets 2 points. The third student can supply a D and he gets 3 points. Now the new word is and. So he gets a 3. So with these simple words, have this crossword puzzle in the class and let the word be bigger and bigger. How many words they can use. So this kind of word puzzles can also be played in the class. You find out how you will play, but some word puzzles can also be played. This is very essential in the beginning to develop a good stock of words in the class. So some activities related to word vocabulary can be given. Listening, I think chapter and some listening activities are given. You can do that. I'll leave this PowerPoint with you with some, because I have limited time. I have to conclude in next 5 minutes. Some activities related to give to listening has been given at the end of the chapter. You can try to have some classes specifically designed to listening and speaking. Then something on reading, I have already said. Also have these one class of honeydew divided into 3 parts: pre-teaching, while teaching, post-teaching. So the learner should be encouraged to, if you are going to discuss one chapter tomorrow, one unit tomorrow, or one topic tomorrow, said that at the end of the class, say that tomorrow I am going to discuss this chapter, and write the name of the chapter on the board, and say that I request all the learners to read this chapter. And the next class, the first thing that you should do is that check that how many of them have read. If they have read, checked with some global comprehension questions. Those some global questions as how many characters are there, how many kind of how many paragraphs you have read. First paragraph deals with what, the whole story is about what. So some global comprehension question to ensure that the learners are reading. Those who are not reading, encourage them to read. Target them in the next day that they have read it. So some pre-reading that will ease your job and develop a self-reading, self-reading practice in the learners. The second phase should be while teaching. So after they have read the story once, yeah, if they, some of them who are very reluctant children, they do not read it after 2-3 days, give them some academic uh, punishment. I use the term academic punishment. Ask them to write that. Say that you have not read for 3 days. Now today you are going to write the story and come to the class. Be in track with parents in case the child does not report the next day. Check with the parents where has the child gone. So you have to be slightly active to ensure that the child is coming and child is participating in reading, writing. Anyway, the child is going through the text. While teaching, if they have already read it, it will be easy for you to explain it. While teaching, let it be as self-reading as possible. Do not explain the meaning unless required. Let them let them sit in the smaller groups, read particular paragraph, explain it to the other groups, and then you explain only the relevant parts so that they have understood it. And then after you have explained that paragraph, say that today, after discussing this, you are going home and you are rereading the portions that are explained in the class, and then I will be asking, say, some follow-up questions, or then you can also give some questions related to that particular area, not chapter, some questions related to that paragraph, and ask them to read the paragraph back and answer those questions. So that way, it's a post-teaching stage where they can read only the portions taught in the class, read it back to ensure that sufficient comprehension has happened in the learners. So the role of the teacher should be minimized to facilitation mode, and the role of learners should be encouraged in more and more of reading activity. So reading some strategies given, you can go through this and do that. Some writing activity, format, a clue, etc. is given. You have to check and you have to ensure that it's happening. Writing, make it a pair work. Some brainstorming is required. If they are writing, start the group work or pair work. They brainstorm, they think, they write. They also self-correct their sentences. They put the ideas together. They peer assess each other's work, what they have written, and they find and correct those errors, and then they rewrite. So this is a process approach of brainstorming, writing, reviewing, editing, and rewriting. This is to be followed, a process approach to be followed in writing, where the peers or groups help each other write better. I think I'll share these, and grammar also, some grammar activities that in our textbook we have taught grammar in context. That's why we don't have a specific book of grammar. All the topics related to grammar, etc., is built up in the context so that you can teach grammar in context. Poetry should be more motivating, or you should try to have more and more motivation and inculcation of values through poetry. Why you should teach it, how you should teach is discussed here. That you should not give one meaning of poem to the learner, because if they are learning, reading their own, they'll be coming up with 40 meanings. If you are teaching one poem related to anything, there can be 40 meanings of the poem. You should not just give one meaning from your point of view to the learners. Let there be 40 meanings of the poems as the learners view it, as the learners get it. So do not impose or insist on one meaning of the poem. Rather, allow the learners to get their own meaning of the poem. That way, it will motivate not only self-reading, but self-learning, reflection, and they'll be encouraged that my meaning is accepted by the teacher. Accept as many meanings as possible in the examination as well. Do not just say that I have taught this meaning. This is the God's word. This is the only meaning, because the writer didn't come to you to give the meaning. So what the writer had in mind has gone with him. You are reading the poem as per your capacity. Let the learner read the poem with their own capacity, with their own understanding, with their own previous knowledge, with their own meaning. Let there be multiple meanings of the poem. I think I have already discussed a lot. I'll leave the 5 last minute for the questions that you have, so that I can answer. I have a lot to discuss. I'll share this PowerPoint with you all. I think most of you are well-read people. If you just go through these infographics and some other information, you will be able to understand many topics. With limited time that I have, I could discuss only this much. I hope we'll also meet sometime face to face. And if you have further query, also you can also write to me. I'll be able to solve. And if I meet face to face to you, visit NCERT or some other place, we'll have more interaction and more strategy we'll discuss when we meet together. I over it to ma'am for some questions that may be there.
Sir, actually, what I understood from your guidance, that this is a teacher's task is more, because they have to plan, they have to prepare the activities, and they have to present in the class, and they should have a clear picture on how to conduct the class, how to transact the lesson, and what things to be done. Means that lesson plan, that period plan should be airtight. Otherwise, it won't take place.
Ma'am,
And
it is
planning
very easy.
with,
It is very easy to go in the class, open the textbook, read a line, explain it. The easiest job which we should avoid.
yes,
Teacher should not go into the class, open the textbook, ask that you open page 5, open the story, read line 1, you read line 1, you explain the meaning, done. That
that
is the
should
easiest
change.
thing which you should not do, which we have been doing as the worst activity that we can do in the class to teach a lesson.
And
Should
every
plan the
day,
activities, yes.
yes,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, yes. And every period should, the teacher should keep in mind the 4 skills should be taught, like listening, reading, writing, and speaking. All the 4 skills should happen in each and every class. Then,
Integration of these skills.
yes, and teacher should have a plan what she want to make the what she is expecting, what learning outcomes she has to achieve in 1 week, in the second week, in the third week, fourth week, and every month. So this planning should be done ahead of the, at least monthly plan should have, every teacher should have. That I understood from your guidance. And one more thing is, yeah, this activity, like every student preparing their own dictionary of his own vocabulary from 8th class textbook. This is wonderful idea, sir. Whenever they go through the dictionary, every time they can see the word and reflect on it, and they once again remember the word. So that is also a very good activity. And last thing, sir, I invite you and Madhavi ma'am to pilot your course in Andhra Pradesh, as we are moving to CBSE, and we need a lot of training to our teachers. And this is, as NCERT course means, it's a standard course. So we feel that we are fortunate enough to have your pilot project here in Andhra Pradesh. I can talk to our higher officials and make it possible happen here, if you are interested and if you have
Yes, yes, ma'am. Anytime if you
please.
plan accordingly, I'll be more than happy to connect to some of the key KRPs who in turn can go to and train other teachers. If you want
Yes,
specific training on this textbook, I can
yes,
come, and there some topics can be also taken as demo lessons and all. Maybe I can use some class transaction. I'll give some demo, having some learners also. So that way, if it is required for me to come to Andhra Pradesh, I'll be more than happy to be there, ma'am.
sure, sir. I'll plan it. And it is very much required, as we are focusing more on English teaching, particularly. Our CM sir is very much interested to make the students improve their communication skills and language skills in a better way. So it is very much needed, sir. It should happen with regular intervals. It may be a weekly one class, or once in a month or something. That we together can plan, NCERT and SCERT.
Also, ma'am, Sudha, ma'am, it's not
Yeah.
that if it is required, maybe occasionally, like on if teachers are interested, a group of interested teachers can be prepared, and if required, I can also take maybe once a month session with them.
Sure.
Maybe
Online it
one,
can happen, sir.
one
Online it can.
online also
We
once
have
a month.
wonderful teachers. We have wonderful English teachers who are very much interested in CPD also. I found so many. So we can encourage them first.
A group of teachers can be prepared, those who are interested, and I can take online sessions also. For
Yes.
academic purpose, I can exert myself to any level, ma'am. I can come there, I can take online session, I can do something that can help learning to happen.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. We are very much happy to have you as our guide and mentor. So we are looking for you to help to take this mission forward. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you. The 2 hours flew away like anything. So it's a
Yes.
wonderful session also with wonderful content. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ravi Garu, can we conclude the
Sir.
session?
Sir, Ramesh sir and Ravi sir. Sir, please
Ramesh
conclude
Garu?
this session, sir.
Hello.
Sir,
Sir.
the man
Hello,
behind this training sessions is CHV Ramesh Kumar, sir. So I would like to invite him to have his words. Ramesh Garu, are you
Madam.
online? Yeah, please.
Yeah, madam. Yeah, madam.
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, sir, from NCERT, Andhra Pradesh, and all the English teaching faculty from Andhra Pradesh, sir. Definitely, we will invite you for the physical session very soon, sir. Kindly cooperate with us. And in this context, I should be thankful to NCERT, sir, for giving us opportunity for copyright and a lot of support from your side, sir. Thank you so much for all these efforts, sir. I thank Giribab Garu, especially Ravi Garu, Gotet Ravi, who was throughout this week. He was there from morning to this time. Thank you so much, Ravi. Thank you for your services. And Giri Garu, thank you so much. And our English coordinator, Sudha Lakshmi Madam, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, sir. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you. All